Paul and James here from the new Sweet Science.
What is up, my man?
All right, James, rank the three events which took place over the weekend. UFC Whittaker versus Gastelum, Bellator 257, Nemkov versus Davis 2, and Jake Paul versus Ben Askren.
Number 3 is Bellator. Didn't know it was even happening. And I think you may have told me on last pod that it was happening. And I forgot within 24 hours.
Okay.
And had no idea it happened. I'm so out of the Bellator loop that I saw something up with Corey Anderson today. And I'm like, he's fought 2 times? Shocked. I thought he just left the UFC like in the past couple of weeks.
You're just waiting for that Yoel Rumble matchup.
I'll need you to text me a reminder on that day.
Okay.
Or maybe set my calendar or something. What is that official?
Yeah, that's taking place early May.
All right, early May. We'll see, man. That is an event that I may watch. Number 1, Paul, is the Triller fight, which makes UFC number 2.
All right, let's hear your reasoning.
And the simple reasoning is this. The Discord thread that we're in, for days and days leading up to the event and after the event, no one talked about the UFC event. I think one time. May not be a single message in there about the UFC event in a 5 or 6 day window. However, the Askren versus Jake Paul fight, many messages. So just based on the evidence of the intrigue, I must go with that event as number 1.
Okay.
So
did you watch the fight?
I did.
And what'd you think?
I mean, there's not a lot to unpack there. I mean, it was pretty quick. I mean, Ben looks how he normally looks with the striking, not too crisp in there. I thought he was in trouble pretty quickly. Like he looked a little in over his skis, as they say.
When Snoop said he looked like a 1930s boxer, I agree. I have watched footage of boxers from a long time ago, and he could be.
I saw a post somewhere, and I'm like, I love this nickname option, but like this version of Ben isn't funky, chunky.
Chunky
rolls off the tongue, rhymes with funky, and is pretty descriptive for his appearance on the night of the fight.
So both of us picked Ben Askren to win.
Correct.
I was battling and struggling with it. I said that the universe, it is weird. And also, I know he had that hip resurfacing and all that. When I saw the weigh-in, I started questioning my bet even more. Now, I understand. I've watched Ben fight before UFC. I understand his body's different. In combination with me hearing that he said he didn't do a single thing for 15 months. And I just picture him at Golden Corral every single one of those days at the chocolate fondue fountain. And then I see his body and I know his demeanor is kind of relaxed and everything. And I started questioning how much is he really training here?
Yeah.
Because he has someone who's training their fucking ass off.
Yeah.
And when you say Jake Paul, I said this last episode, you look at Jake Paul, he hasn't any matches or anything like that. The guy is rich and he can afford people to come in and train him and completely focus on him instead of like taking a class. You got to roll with this guy, white belt, who accidentally injures you. You got to roll with this person. This is completely focused around him. Mm-hmm. So it's different, especially having that amount of resources. I said he's got a fucking full-size boxing ring in his living room.
Yeah.
or what rich people have is a great room. See, no one in our neighborhood had a great room. When I first heard that term, I was like, what the fuck is that? In a castle? Like, no, this is the great room. I'm like, well, what goes on in here? A living room, you mean? No, it's a great room. I still don't know what it is.
When I first met Kristen, actually 20 years ago, she invited me into her great room. And
What
I'm
an
like, get the fuck out of here. This is a living room. This is Hazel Park. You don't have a great room.
And then I heard the dining room. I'm like, you mean the kitchen? where the dining room
No,
table is?
we didn't have dining rooms when we grew up. Or we didn't have dining, we didn't have bar seating or a breakfast nook or any of that shit.
A
I
nook.
had red flags too.
I still don't even know what. First of all, hold on. I still don't know what the fuck a nook is. I don't think when a guy sits in the same place, I don't think it can be a nook. I think a nook can only be a place a woman sits, and it's just some protrusion of the house where books are read
Well,
or
when you and
breakfast
your
is
girl
eaten.
are spooning and she's curled behind you and you kind of slide into her, you're in her nook. So to me, a nook is a smaller space.
Okay.
Like you can't go into a nook and have throw a party or have people over. It's like a
Okay.
one person location. That's how I perceive it, at least.
So Jim, it's like a hammock. Jim Gaffigan has a joke. Is like, have you ever been in a hammock with another person? You better be in a relationship with them.
Correct.
And now, were you excited when Ride or Die Kristen invited you into her great room? You not knowing what it was, you're like, okay, is this like a sex lair? Was it an analogy for her genitalia? I don't know. I'm just
No, the opposite. I feel like an idiot because I never heard the term before. Then I'm like, I don't know if because this is like 2001, so I don't know. Yeah, Yahoo was around then. That's when I swore I'd never use Google. I'm pretty sure 2001. That didn't turn out too well, but
so
I
the
remember
first
researching
time
this.
your first internet search ever was for what is a great room?
Possibly, possibly, possibly. I might
Okay.
search it right now, actually, because I'm curious. It's obviously a room that you need to have multiple like rooms that serve the same purpose. I'm thinking like Downton Abbey. It's like there's a bunch of rooms that you can do the same thing in, but they each have a different like specificity. Like
Okay.
you have a after dinner cocktail in one room. That's all you do in there. You have a pre-dinner. You ever see Downton Abbey?
No, but I get it.
Okay.
This is why listeners listen to other shows because they're expecting to hear about Whittaker. I mean, Robert Whittaker is maybe my favorite fighter. And we're talking about what is a great room. So, unless this is what people want, half of our listeners watch Downtown Abbey or Downton Abbey.
I think it all depends on how much fun you want to have in life.
See, I knew a girl named Downtown Abbey. I don't know if that is that kind of a connection.
I remember Downtown Julie Brown, MTV character back in the day. I don't know what that means. What Downtown Abbey? What was her specialty? Fellatio?
Come on, man. This is a PG-13 show. I can't describe that.
If PG stands for Paul Gordon and the 13 stands for something debaucherous, then I agree.
Okay. Sorry, let's get back to the fight. So you said you started feeling your doubts.
Yes. And mine was on Friday. I ended up deep diving a bunch of videos and I ended up watching the Logan Paul interview with Ben Askren. And I watched not the entire thing, it's a long interview. And I watched Logan and Jake, and I just watched a whole series of videos. And I was kind of buzzed. Kristen's on vacation, so I got really buzzed on Sunday. the day that I watched the event. So there was something in there, and I may have texted the thread. I don't even know if I did or didn't, but I wanted to walk back my pick. I was like, I think I fucked up. I think obviously in retrospect, I picked more with my heart and rooting for MMA because, like you said, and maybe it was this, like, maybe I didn't truly realize how serious Jake Paul is taking it. Oh, here's one of my red flags that came back to me. Thank you. I learned that Askren trained with Freddie Roach, and Freddie wanted him out there for the entire camp, but Askren only did like a couple weeks or so. And to me, that was like, how serious is he taking this?
Okay.
Because and maybe he did quote unquote train hard or as hard as he can, but if you're climbing your way through the MMA ranks in the UFC, you feel like your life is on the line. Like it's all that matters to you, and you're willing to die and go through the fire to be your best version. And it was almost like how you discussed Connor when he didn't weigh in versus Nate Diaz in the first fight. I mean, he did have to cut weight. You're like, do you lose part of your edge not going through that fire? And I mean, whether he did or didn't, like Paul was technically superior.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see him fight somebody who has a little bit greater skill set.
We'll get to that right now. I want to just say one thing. In Rocky 1, Apollo Creed's manager is watching Rocky hit on the beef in the freezer.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some of that stuff might be ridiculous, but that was him. Then he saw it and warned Apollo, this guy isn't taking it as an exhibition. He's serious.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely not comparing the two, but it just, as the way you described it made me think of that scene.
Well, Apollo and Ben may have I could picture Ben coming out in the Apollo Creed outfit, with that, live whatever the song was, the pro-American song going in the background.
James Brown.
I could 100% see that.
Now for Jake Paul's next opponent, I just want to, because there might be a first listener here. We're not casuals, I don't think. I love MMA. Robert Whittaker's my favorite. It's just this stuff is so stupid that it's funny. And let me preface it with this. If you get upset with Jake, it's MMA boxing, put him in a real boxing match, man. He fucking knocked out him and Jay Leon. And then what about Tyrone Woodley? If you get upset by a 24-year-old boy with horrendous trolling skills, you need to shame on you. You need to pick up your binky and your blankie and take a nap and settle down. You should never get upset over something like this. It's funny and it's stupid, and it's like a novelty cocktail. You're like, oh, I'll try that. Okay, do you want any more? No, I'm good. That's how I look at it as. And then, in a couple months, maybe I'll have that cocktail again.
Yeah. It's entertainment. If you don't like it, move on. If you do, keep on consuming it, man.
Yeah. And I don't attach it to anything here. And I couldn't care less about Jake Paul. He's a stupid idiot who's just trolling you, who he's in a boxing match or not. I really don't care. I didn't look at this as MMA versus boxing or whatnot. I was like, it'd be funny if he got knocked out cold or whatever, but it is what it is. Now, that being said, you talked about his next guy. Is he going to fight an MMA guy next?
Well, let me check, because I just subscribed to his YouTube channel to watch his daily video.
My prediction is that he's not going to. He's gonna He's going to try to pick off somebody else. I'm not sure when.
He won't fight anybody under contract. There is a 0% chance anybody under UFC contract is going to fight Jake Paul in a boxing match. 0%. That's not going to happen. Not Tyron Woodley. He ain't going to box him either.
What about Conor? Conor fought Floyd under UFC contract, right? Because Zuffa was able to collaborate.
And Conor will box Jake Paul one day. That's a mortal lock. Those two are wired the exact same way.
Hold on. So there's lock and then there's mortal lock?
Correct.
Okay.
Maybe I just made it up, but yes.
Oh, I like
Conor
it.
and Jake Paul will box one day. As long as Jake Paul's fame remains relatively the same that it is, those two guys, they could be cousins. They're Conor is a little more polished and a little smarter, but they're both showmen in their own way. They both like making money, and they'll both get in there, and talk some shit. So I see that happening at some point. It'd probably be 37-year-old Conor or 39-year-old Conor if Jake Paul's still doing this.
Broke, an alcoholic. He has no custody of his kids, Conor.
I hope it doesn't happen to him, but yeah, that's most likely the Conor.
What about, I swear, when I looked in the thread, someone mentioned, Tyron Woodley boxing one of Jake Paul's guys. And what did you say?
I think I said something along the lines of, I'll bet against Tyron Woodley against anybody.
Yes. And it's funny how the MMA community will be. Tyron Woodley, I mean, he was even hated when he was champ, which when he was talking about Nick Diaz all the time, it's understandably so. But I guess he went out. I liked him in the Vicente Luque fight, but I don't want to watch Tyron Woodley box.
No.
Who would you rather see Jake Paul box next? BJ Penn or Tyron Woodley?
Oh, BJ Penn.
Wait, why did you giggle?
I just haven't heard his name in a long time. Miss him a little bit.
BJ Penn probably needs the money. You'd be helping him out.
Idea. BJ Penn probably coming and weighing more too.
All right. Jake Paul versus BJ Penn or Jake Paul versus Mike Perry?
I'll watch the Mike Perry one. Yeah, that's good.
You would rather see him over BJ Penn?
Mike Perry just lost his last fight. He's lost like 7 out of 10.
He has no head movement.
He's a perfect candidate, man.
I love sparring, and sparring footage has been around since the beginning of time. And how people talk about sparring is that you had a sanctioned event and went all out. Even though you're wearing, who knows what size gloves you're wearing, if you're wearing 16s, 14s, if you're trying out 8s or 10s, what kind of headgear you got on. You got the big headgear that's going across your face. Who knows what you're working on? Who knows what other situations took place in that day? It's funny how everybody will talk about sparring. And then the classic thing always leading up to a fight is, that person got knocked out in sparring, or that person knocked out someone else in sparring. Just remember, I'm going to help you out, guys. Anything that's mentioned around sparring, just forget it.
Yes, I remember this might be a classic, Paul, but I remember vividly securing you and I were sparring kickboxing at that. I think it's Champion Kickboxing, and we were in there working on a specific technique. And some guy, some know-it-all guy, walks outside of the ring behind us and tried to give us a tip or coach us. And you're like, this fucking guy, he's trying to give us a tip to do whatever his thing was. And we're not even working on that. Like, we're working on something specifically that requires us to be in this position. And that was probably 11, 12 years ago. And I just remember vividly, like you don't know what you're seeing in sparring, what the context is, what's happening around it. If someone's working with their hand down on purpose to try to work on their slipping and counter from a different angle, it could be a million things. So you can interpret what you want out of it, but it means virtually nothing.
Correct. Good. All right. That sounded good.
Thank you.
All right. Jake Paul versus Mike Perry or Jake Paul versus Luke Rockhold?
Mike Perry. I feel like he'll probably knock out Luke Rockhold.
Jake Paul versus Luke Rockhold or Jake Paul versus Mike Perry or Jake Paul versus Michael Bisping?
See, the bigger guys at us, like, here's the thing with these characters is they're older. I want to see them versus someone who's 27 years old.
Oh, I was going to say, let me mention, Michael Bisping has one eye.
And I think there's an aspect with MMA too, is you're working a lot harder in MMA training than you do in boxing training. Sorry, there's nothing like grappling. Nothing can mimic the fucking weight of another human dragging you to the ground, and you're trying to work positions, fend off chokes, advance back positions. There is nothing like that. And my point is, I think that MMA careers can nosedive more quickly.
Okay.
Because of the amount of work and the grind they endured to get to the top level. That's why virtually every champion falls off. Once they lose the belt, they're done. Look at Tyron Woodley. The guy's a shell. He was fucking badass just a few years ago. I don't want Woodley fighting him. I don't want Rockhold fighting him, Bisping, or anybody who has been out of the game or near the end. If someone's going to cross over, it's got to be someone like 27 to 31, like a Max Holloway 2-3 years ago.
And it might be, but it'll probably be in football or some other thing. Jake Paul, when I see an interview, I might watch 10 seconds of it and turn it, especially when he's playing a character. It's a stupid character. It's like Colby Covington. It's like Chael Sonnen. It's maybe because I watch so much stand-up. So when I watch these guys, I'm watching the shittiest stand-up of all time. And maybe that's what it is. It's my own fault. I need to watch less stand-up so I can enjoy these idiots. But it's entertaining. I'll take it with a grain of salt. I don't compare it to MMA. I don't care how confident he is. I grew up with guys like this who thought they were so confident or whatnot. And I can't tell you how many guys I fucking choked out in real life. And it's just, you can't get upset about this kind of stuff. And I enjoyed it. There are two parts of this event that I truly enjoyed. One was Oscar De La Hoya, a gem. That guy comes on the broadcast hammered. Right when I see his face and his eyes, I'm just like, holy shit, man, this place is a party here. And then he starts calling Frank Mir's opponent's nickname is USS, and Oscar De La Hoya calls him USSR. And I'm just like, you're pandering to the crowd, bro. I love you. You're calling him USSR. I thought it was so great. And then he goes on to reiterate all different types of it, but he's promoting a boxing match July 3rd. And there are rumors that it might be Eddie Alvarez.
I saw that.
I'd watch it, not pay for it, but it would be funny and fun.
So, Paul, I want to come back to the odds because odds have been released on Paul's next opponent.
Okay.
Would you like to hear these?
Why should he fight somebody who's serious when he can try to nab off somebody who's not ass? So I don't think he's going to fight a pro boxer. Go ahead.
There's 12 people on the list. And the highest one is the guy he was on the card with. Don't know him, but Joe Fournier. Is that how you say his name?
Yes.
2-1. Then number 2, I think, is a boxer as well. Tommy Fury.
Tyson Fury's brother, I think.
5-2. Okay. Now we get to the interesting part for the listeners. Next highest on the list is Dylan Dennis at 4-1. That is the perfect point for Jake Paul. Another guy with a grappling background who isn't an elite striker.
Can I have a double knockout or a draw like when Tito and Rashad fought each other? I ended up going on to kind of liking Rashad more, but I do not want to see Dylan Dennis versus Jake Paul.
No.
Dylan Dennis I had to quit following him. He just says all the stupid stuff all the time. I'm just, God, I can't believe how it can invoke some like passionate response. Like, yeah, I want to see you fucking get knocked out. You ain't going to say that in this situation. Just,
dude, I can't.
Maybe I'm too old, but go ahead.
Andrew Schultz, you know, he is a comedian.
Oh, okay. Now we're talking something in this situation.
So he had Dennis on his podcast, and what did he call Dennis? He called him the Alex Jones of MMA.
Okay, like delusional.
Is that what he means? He just says crazy shit?
I mean, unconventional and intelligent and can figure out all of the components of the deep state mechanism. Come on, man.
I don't think these odds are. So next up, Paul, Tyron Woodley 5-1, not going to happen. If I could bet against
I don't want to see Tyron Woodley box anybody.
Next up is the person you mentioned, BJ Penn, 12-1. Dude,
he's gonna murder
a flyer
BJ
on
Penn.
that.
We watched that big fat Hawaiian guy whip his ass in the back of the bar. Jake Paul's gonna run through his ass.
Connor 12-1, not gonna happen. Chris Lieben, 16-1.
The Crippler? The Crippler is gonna be on so many performance enhancers.
Well, he's a super heavyweight now, isn't he? Anyway, he's gigantic. He looks like
I don't even know if he's alive.
I'm thinking of the cabbage.
All right, what are the odds for Paige Van Zandt?
Ooh, 6-9.
He should do a woman. Who's that? Clarissa Shields?
There you go. Future MMA star right there. Matt Brown's on here. Jimmy,
Amanda Nunes?
I'd watch. Floyd Mayweather, 33-1. Phil Baroni's on here. New York Badass.
For some reason, I think he's going to go non-fighting, and he's going to drum up some kind of controversy, and then we're going to watch that person box. All right. I think I'm done with this. Oh, the other person, the other gem from the Triller event, Pete Davidson. Pete Davidson was great. He was just honest. He was talking about how ridiculous this event is and how he hammered Jake Paul so much that Larsa almost started feeling sorry for Jake Paul. She's like, wow, he is really going hard at him.
Is it like a Comedy Central roast in a sense?
Interesting. I wonder if Pete was treating it like that. So Michael Buffer came on and he was like, Ben Askew. And my girlfriend is.
Did he?
Huh?
Did he say his name wrong?
Yeah. And then Ben's like, Askren. He said Askew.
No, they had to be a troll job.
Well, I don't know if maybe they trolled and had Buffer. Maybe they put it on the card for Buffer, and that's what he said.
Buffer can be on sedatives, man. He looked 40% human there.
Well, he's like 90. He's in his 70s.
Is that what it is?
He's in his 70s. And you get a can you imagine that place? How many blunts were going off? You'd have a contact high in there.
He's 76. Is he still doing events?
Hot take. Jake Paul is used to weed more and Ben Askren isn't. So therefore Askren was too high because of the contact buzz. And that's why Paul was able to KO him. Lock. So my girlfriend is like, hey, what? That's not his name. He didn't even pronounce his name correctly. What's wrong with that announcer? And I said, that announcer is the greatest of all time. And, I was seeing how we say greatest of all time. Everything is greatest of all time. And she looks at me like I'm an idiot. And I said, actually, he kind of is the greatest of all time. And she says, who is he? And I said, that's Michael Buffer. And she says, so every announcer's last name, they call it Buffer? Because she only knows Bruce Buffer. And I said, no, that's Bruce Buffer's brother. And she's like, no, she didn't believe me. So I had to bring it up on the computer and show her, and she was just blown away. And I said, no, that's the better Buffer.
True. And aren't they fake brothers?
I think they're half brothers.
The way that the Shamrock guys are brothers.
Shamrock brothers kind of look alike, though. I can't remember, but they have adopted dad. I think Bruce and Michael are half brothers.
Okay. Did you know Michael credits Bruce for his career?
I mean, you got to be nice to your younger brother, right?
This is per Bruce on the Brian Callen podcast like 12 years ago.
Oh, the two doozies on that podcast right there. No, I mean, I'm not saying I dislike them. It's funny.
No, doozies is a good way to describe them. That's for sure.
All right. Speaking of doozies, I want to apologize to Robert Whittaker and all of his kids and everything because we didn't discuss him. Beautiful. Hey, there are very few times when I get nervous during a fight, and every time Robert Whittaker fights, I can't sit down. I pace. I bite my nails. I cannot achieve an erection until a victory. A lot of things happen.
You got to go with the Ben Stiller from Something About Mary.
What part?
He masturbates before the date to take the edge off.
So I have to masturbate before a Robert Whittaker fight. I don't think I've tried that. Maybe I'm too nervous all week, but no, I'm going to try. I'm going to try the day of, wake up, and it's fight day. I got to get that out of the way. And then I do the podcast. There's something on my head. Just like some hair gel, right? Hey, last episode I said Whittaker, underrated wrestling. He's implementing it more here. He is so quick, and he can scramble. He's going to be implementing it more in the future. His 1-2 right kick or high kick is always a pleasure to watch. But
I mean, that is about as bad as I've ever seen Gastelum get beat.
Yeah, because he's been finished as like Weidman, but he had a spot there where he almost finished Weidman. And Whittaker didn't get hurt like how he does in a lot of his fights.
And, someone said this on the broadcast, and Whittaker didn't do the things that got him finished versus Adesanya. Were kind of lunging in, exposed, and then get caught with the counter.
Mm-hmm.
So he seems to have fought a much smarter fight. And it was really one-sided, man. I was so impressed.
I could tell he's been working on his counters or backward game. He threw his check hook a little differently. I love when he throws the right kick, brings it down and throws a left hook. That thing is nasty, but he actually seemed like he threw his check hook a lot more. But defensively and kind of retreating, it looks like it's evolved some.
Hey, here's a sweet stat for you. In the same fight, Whittaker lands both his most takedowns in a fight and lands his most significant strikes in a fight. In the same fucking fight.
Wow. Huh.
That's
pretty
impressive,
good.
man.
That's
Okay, so actually, we discussed earlier how I said like MMA career, it kind of spikes in it with champs lose, they die off. Whittaker is the only guy I can remember to lose a title fight and come back and win 3 straight. Wait, from being champion. Because I think John Fitch actually climbed the ranks, lost, then went on a little bit more of a run. But I can't recall a champion ever doing this, losing the belt, then winning his next 3 fights.
wow. Yeah, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, but that's pretty damn good. And I always have an issue with this. You know, does Robert Whittaker want, quote unquote, want to fight for the title? Who gives a shit what he wants? When he goes out there, if you go out there and say, you know, I really don't think I can beat this guy, I don't even want to win, and you KO him, who gives a fuck what you said or what you did? Actions speak louder than words, right?
And your words could be a feint.
Many things, or you can just not want to talk. I get it. You got to build or what. And one of the consequences is he might not get the same opportunity as someone who's equal because it's more of a business decision. I understand that. That makes sense. But it's just always want. Well, you put guys in front of him and he smokes them. Ask him if he wants to fight anymore. Who cares? I don't even care what he wants. He wants to make kids and he wants his wife pregnant is what he wants. So maybe you need to ask him the question differently.
Yeah, it's kind of silly.
He should have played it the same. I hated him being asked that all week and everything. He just wants to chill and just whatever. I guess he handled it the best he could. I'm nervous because I think Adesanya is terrifying, and I obviously want Whittaker to beat everybody. I mean, the only person I couldn't is if he was facing Nunes. I would have, I'd be kind of torn. But Adesanya worries me. But maybe this is the right time because he is postcoital.
That's what I was thinking, man. I am leaning towards picking whoever fights Adesanya next in their fight.
Well, it's probably going to be Whittaker unless something happens. Then I guess it's going to be Vettori. Unless they make Jones versus Adesanya, because, man, they still haven't made that fight. Now you're starting to hear, I think Dana said again, Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou are the fight to make.
Yeah.
But I almost want that fight to happen because that means Cyril Gane is going to get the next title fight. So, but part of me still what's going to happen with Jones then? He's going to box Jake Paul next. What is he going to do? If it's not Francis Ngannou, who the fuck is it? The winner of Rumble and Yoel? Floyd Mayweather boxing? I don't.
Do you maybe think this is Rumble chose Bellator because of Ngannou and Jones?
Rumble?
Yeah. I mean, I would.
Maybe Rumble was looking for that big payday right away. Maybe he was thinking, okay, this is good. And then Yoel signs afterwards. He's like, damn. It's probably a money decision. Bellator offered him more. New Sweet Science Hall of Fame. And also the performance deduction for this event, Jeremy Stevens. For pushing Drakkar close. I hate it. I've always hated it when people headbutt each other or do anything else. That's why I'm like, don't even come close to me if you just get this free shot to do whatever you want to me. But sometimes fluke stuff like that happens, but I don't want anything to happen because it's going to escalate and then they're going to eliminate that moment, which I think is kind of a cool moment in combat sports.
That's the risk you run, man, is losing the moment. And I think that is the potential worst outcome that becomes of this is losing face-offs. Like Conor always tells Dana, give him pride. He's like, no, I'm good. Like, let us get close. And it's always a professional, intense stare down.
Hey, we just watched that with Jake Paul and Ben Askren and Robert Whittaker and Calvin
Right.
Gastelum.
So it immediately rubbed me the wrong way when I saw it. Like, I hope this guy fucking gets his head taken off. It was just stupid to me.
It didn't rub me the wrong way. I said, what the fuck are you doing, Stevens? Because why push him and he pushes him that hard. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Because I don't want this. I don't want stare downs to be eliminated. And I think the more that happens, the more likely it'll happen. And then I saw Drakkar Close limping.
What? Oh, he was limping right there?
It looked like when he came back, you couldn't see his lower legs at first, but then it panned out. And to me, it looked like he had a limp. So then when it said he pulled out, I thought it was an ankle or a knee that he tweaked. Then I heard it was his cervical or whatnot. I don't know what. And I think Drakkar Close is tough. I mean, look for a way out or whatnot. I can't even read. I started reading some comments. It just like everything in social media, it is embarrassment to humanity.
Oh my God.
Just, you know, how he's faking it. Or what about when a guy's going to have a fight or whatnot? When you're up close like that, you're completely defenseless. He's got fucking slides on. He's not going to have sandals on in the octagon. And it's just so weird. You're not, and it's kind of a fluke incident.
Guess who Dana holds responsible for the altercation?
Probably the guy in the middle, Sean Shelby.
Correct.
Because I've heard him always kind of talk about that. Anytime those guys interact, he says how it's his fault. So that's why I guessed it.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not because if you start pushing in front of Dana, that's the big boss.
And I guess you got to know who's coming in there and get like, okay, this guy is a fucking nut job. So don't let him get near his opponent.
Or just say, we have to now put it, because you're an idiot and you can't control yourself and you're 30 fucking something years old and you're trying to fight off of addiction and all this other stuff and you're down in the dumpsters and have an opportunity and you have 50 fucking fights that you would know better, but now we got to put it in your contract that you won't do this. And I'm being a little hard on Stevens there because, you know, stuff like this does happen in stare downs, but it was just the intensity that he pushed them.
Right.
And it wasn't even anything. He didn't say, go fuck your mom or go do this or you're like an insult. From what I understand, he was just standing there. Who cares if he was? You guys are going to fight.
Well, and like people will talk about like how, wow, like the push, how did that do this or that to him or whatever. And it was either Cormier or Stipe, but I think it was Cormier once. This was, years ago. He was on an interview show and talked about how he blew out his back picking up a tiny dog. And like,
it's always like that.
Random things lead to the injury all the time.
Guys getting those hernias when they're sneezing, you lean down the weird way. Let you stand there completely kind of standing there and let someone double palm you in the chest. And you better hope you don't fall down on the ground and then hit the back of your head. That's what my dad used to say. For even pushing people down on the ground, you just push them. But if they happen to fall, hit the back of their head and die, now you're going for some kind of murder or manslaughter.
Yeah.
Thank God nothing happened to me like that when I was younger. He better watch out for some kind of suspension or even legal action from Drakkar Close's. Drakkar Close has a mortgage. He's not one of the high paid guys. He has people to pay. He's got a flight. He's got I don't know what UFC pays for. He's got to be pissed. I would be livid. They should get the fight again. And Steven should have 2 points deducted in their fight right from the beginning if they fought again. Does that sound fair?
I'm okay with that.
I was almost thinking Close had an ankle injury or something and kind of played up the neck aspect. He's like, fuck, I don't want to go with this jeopardized ankle. Steven's gonna be throwing calf kicks at me. But it's so hard. I can theorize everything. It's just too hard to tell if you're not on the inside.
Part of me does hope that this is like a Jakar close checkmate. Like this motherfucker comes in there, shoving me like an asshole, and maybe like a little tweak occurred that would, you know, lessen his performance in there. And he's like, all right, I'll show this guy. I'll show him. Because now who feels like the fool? Who is the heat on?
The heat is on Stevens for sure. And thing is that Stevens is entertaining to watch. I don't think he's the hardest hitting 145 or a 155er, but he is entertaining to watch and he does bring it.
Oh yeah. So he's a great employee, man.
Both cards, quote unquote cards, the UFC one and the Jake Paul Ben Askren one got stopped via a groin strike or a fake groin strike, whatever, in the Jake Paul event. Alexander Romanov versus Juan Espino. And this is further proof of what I think is that Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan is a turning point in MMA history, where these fights are going to start being stopped more often. And they don't just wait like Stefan Struve with the crowd cheering and not cheering and kind of, are you ready, and get you to go. I think the doctors now are more likely to call the event also. And it seems to be happening.
We said this, someone else said it too, but like, it's unfair to the fighter. Because the ref is always, I know the ref isn't rushing them like outwardly, but they're trying to hurry it along.
They do have TV time or whatnot.
So you put the fighter in a weird position where they have to go out there, perhaps compromise, and continue a fight.
Maybe they'll start negotiating with the fighter. The fighter's like, I don't think I can continue. He'd be like, well, what if I take 3 points? What if you start on his back? What if I take 2 points? Like, something like that.
What was it, Whittaker Gastelum, where Whittaker had a minute? I think it was a groin shot, and he took like a microsecond to come back into the fight. And Herb Dean was like, well, you have time, you sure? And then the fight began again.
Yeah, and all those fights or all those shots, it's impossible because some of the ones that just nick you, just like a knockout shot. Look at Chad Mendez and Frankie Edgar. Damn, hit him on the tip of his nose and knocked him out. You never know, and just like a groin shot, which one really hurts or not. It's impossible for us to tell.
Dude, I have these. It's like this kind of rack that hangs over my cabinet door, and I hang towels on the inside. I knocked that off the cabinet today, and it hit my shin or ankle area, and that hurt more than any strike I ever took in an MMA fight. It's like the one I didn't see coming.
Yeah, and it's like a
scream fuck as loud as I could. I'm like I can literally get punched in the head, and it doesn't hurt as badly as this towel rack banging off my ankle area.
Yeah, and I guess in that situation you have less adrenaline and stuff, but it's a weird thing. And then however it affects your nervous system.
I got you. Start doing dishes with more adrenaline.
You got to be fired up.
I got to play like fight music, come out there, get fired up, wear fight shorts, wrap my hands. You
only do dishes when you and Ride or Die are actually in a fight, when you're fighting about something. Just throwing you out options.
No, I'm thinking it through. I'm like, okay, this is good. Usually I'm more of the silent passive aggressive type who kills you with just, complete mute behavior.
Oh, I do that. Oh, we're all different kinds of manipulation. I will say I am pretty productive when I'm irritated. If I'm pissed, I'll get shit done.
Gotta clear your mind, man.
I gotta do something to kill somebody.
That's a good technique. I recommend that. It's better than eating.
Yeah, but the flip side, I don't like drinking when I'm irritated. It doesn't like, oh, I'm going to get some drinks and burn off the steam. No, I just want
Doesn't
to
that
drink
just
that
ignite
fun.
the steam? For
Hmm?
me, that would ignite the steam and become a flame and then a raging inferno.
Well, that's what happens to me. If I do get too drunk, that's what happens. I automatically default to some deep inner anger issue that I have or something I haven't, come to terms with. But whatever, everyone's got their fucking issues.
We all got our demons, man.
Uh, Last thing for that event, Violent Bob Ross with the victory. And I know it's small of me to want someone to win solely on their nickname. I like him. I like his style, whatever, but it's irrelevant. I love his nickname and I want him to win because of his nickname. And that is it.
I appreciate that actually.
Or does that make me a casual?
No, because I have random rooting interest too. For literally no reason that would make sense to somebody like outside observer. But to me, I'm like, that's what I root for this person. Like the Sam Lv Twitter thing I had 8 years ago, 9 years ago,
Yeah.
whatever that was.
I want Marlon Moraes to win solely on his body.
Yeah.
Is that so bad? Am I a
No.
bad person because of that? Maybe.
No.
Actually, I might be a bad person. I don't know.
Or you might be a breath of fresh air, man, for the transparency and the honesty.
You can't look. I have my hardcore moments, just like you had that term selective hardcore. I have my hardcore. I watched the Robert Whittaker several times. I watch his different techniques and all that shit. But then other stuff, you just got to have some fun. Kind of like the Jake Paul Ben Askren. I don't get mad about that. I got other shit to get mad about, okay? And I'm not wasting it on a fucking YouTuber. That's for sure. You waste it on important things like your family and people that are close to you. Nemkov beat Davis, so he faces the Rumble UL winner. And then Corey Anderson beat Yakshi Nurmagomedov, and now he'll face Ryan Bader.
That's an interesting fight.
Speaking of interesting fights, UFC 261.
Here we go.
Let's do it. I can't, I'm sorry that we didn't come out with this, but we like to do everything, how do I say, wrong? Okay? Rank the 3 title fights.
Wow.
Usman, Masvidal, Weili, Namajunas, Shevchenko, Andrade.
I can tell you the most disrespected title fight is Shevchenko versus Andrade.
Why is it disrespected?
It's in the Coco, but they're heavier weight. That doesn't usually happen.
Interesting.
This card features some fucking high level champions. About as high level as they get.
All right. Are you more excited for Uriah Hall versus Chris Weidman than any of the 3 title fights?
No.
Okay. I was just checking because you
Uriah
love.
He's about to plant as a title fight flag right here.
You love Uriah Hall. Love.
Now, let's get some. At one point, Uriah Hall was in the same Sam Alvey class.
You did not like Uriah Hall, but now
turn the corner.
That relationship is hot. Like you two should have a little meeting in a great room.
100.
All right. Well, let's get off him for a second. So rank the 3 title fights.
What makes it great is I have not seen any of these fighters fight each other before, because when Usman fought Masvidal last time, I was fucking hammered. Hammered, man. We moved houses that day, started drinking beers at like 11 or noon.
And there were 3 title fights. It lasted till 5 a.m. It might have even lasted till Monday.
You come out of 14 hours of beer, man. You're like, holy shit.
So do you even know what happened in the first fight?
Was it a split decision?
Because I get it. That was nice. Masvidal only loses via split decision.
But was Jorge the first guy to win a round on Usman?
I don't even know if he won a round.
I think he won one round on one judge's scorecard.
Hey, something to get behind.
This is like Usman's like the new version of GSP, man, where you're latching on to one fighter winning a single round.
Or Connor versus Khabib. Oh my God, you're right. You're hardcore, man.
Selective.
Masvidal won the first round on David Lethaby's card. Huh.
And that was when I was least buzzed. So the fight to me was a barn burner, back and forth. No idea who's going to win. Woke up the next day and heard it was a landslide. Really confused me.
You're like, it was a really close fight. Man, it's going to be another close one. All right, so rank the 3 title fights.
This is tough, man. This is really tough. I'm going number 1, Shevchenko versus Andrade. Because Andrade is going to bring the fire and it's going to make Valentina have to neutralize that fire. So should see more fireworks than some of Valentina's fights. So going to bring out the best in her. It's going to be a high level. I'd probably lean towards the under there if I was going to, make a planet, because I think it's going to be, a 2-3 round fight.
It's funny because, okay, then what's your number 1? Oh, wait, that's your number 1. What's your number 2?
Number 2 is Usman versus Masvidal. And so here's why Rosa and Weili is number 3 is because I feel like this fight cannot live up to the hype. Weili's fight versus, JJ was epic, an all-timer. So you're on the heels of that. So the fight everybody wants to see. It's Rosa's back, wants the belt again. And I want to go into it with low expectations so I can enjoy it for what it is and not have any kind of letdown. That's why I'm making it number 3 for my own mental well-being.
Okay, so the Usman, well, all right, let me say something really quick before we go into it. Rose made Rose Weili number 1 for me when she said better red than dead and talked about her family in the Soviet Union and brought the Cold War into this. And it's like, whoa, now I have a huge interest in this. I don't even necessarily have a rooting interest about the Cold War. I just love the history and all. It's so complex. And so that's kind of an obvious one. I almost feel like, okay, yeah, Paul's going to like that one. Yeah, okay, I am. I'm consistent. That usually with Valentina, it's you watch the fight to admire Valentina.
Yes.
Her dancing, her body, her technique. She's so high level. And you're just like, man, just look at her. It's almost like watching someone doing a dance rendition and they're the only one up there, or a painter.
Yeah.
And you're not like watching 2 painters face off, but it'd be kind of interesting, I guess. But this one, the opponent is bringing something where you're like, all right, the fight itself is what I may be watching here again.
Yeah. Yeah. Andrade is going to bring the fight to her. That's what she does.
Yeah, she's going to bring something.
In 4 of her, in 4 of her last 5 fights ended in a finish.
All right. With Usman versus Masvidal 2, what do you think of this fight? You think that extra time is going to make a difference? Is it going to play out the same? Is it going to be relatively the same, but going to be closer, or is something new going to occur?
So, I just was reading an interview with Usman before the pod. Like, what he says doesn't make sense to me.
He's the worst interview ever, and it never makes sense.
That's why I find reading interviews better. They're easier to digest for me.
Interesting. Now, how many times did it say at the end of the day? because he loves that phrase. I don't even know if he still says it. I quit kind of watching his interviews because he was just, I get it, he's trying to find himself. He's trying to portray this champion and stuff like that. And it's just not, I wish he would just kind of act normal.
He's talking about retiring potentially. Maybe walking from the sport.
Once you talk about retiring, you're already got a foot out the door and you automatically lose, right?
Talking about
Allegedly.
crossing over in his next fight.
In the boxing.
He didn't say which sport, he said crossing over. And they're talking about how like these guys in the division, they're not active, so they don't get him excited. But for some reason, Jorge does, who's the least active guy in the division. Doesn't make sense.
He doesn't, just like your one thing he said about, I need to see more activity from Colby, and Colby has actually beaten a guy since losing to him, and Jorge hasn't.
I mean, Usman has fought a guy since their last fight.
That's funny. I almost wonder at times guys are asked so many questions that they just start saying shit.
Let me give you a hot take here. It's 100% a money grab. That's Jorge's name. And he's trying to convince himself of other reasons why he's taking the fight. Like, he's saying that he didn't feel like he beat him badly enough last time. So that's what's motivating him. I think it's a pure money grab. And I think it gives Jorge a greater chance.
See, I was almost thinking, has he been in there with him and said, this guy can't hurt me, and when I have him in the clinch, I feel the strength differential that he's like, this isn't as much risk as going out there with Colby or something.
It could be that, man. No, you could be right. This could be just it could be that combined with a money play. But like, so that's the thing is like, listen, we're grasping at straws here.
And then he said, Stephen Thompson, fuck that. Stephen Thompson could actually beat me.
Exactly. So I wonder if there's like a Z or X or some kind of thing going on here where maybe Usman, because the guy looks indestructible. So maybe I'm grasping at straws to make the fight more entertaining. Am I on a head or something? But maybe there's just a hint of vulnerability here. He's talking about retiring, talking about crossover. He's telling himself this story about how he has to fight more active fighters, but Jorge doesn't fight unless it's Usman. So like, there's just a lot going on here that maybe it allows Jorge to win a round on all three judges' scorecard this time.
Well, I am picking Usman.
Agree.
I'm not, I don't know what, I'm not excited for this fight. I'm excited for that it is a UFC numbered event and it is for a title. That excitement is more exciting than so many things in my life that you could just plug in whatever two fighters because it's the two guys fighting each other. The fact that it's those particular guys, Usman and Masvidal too, I feel like I'm going to see some of the same fight. Maybe Masvidal poses more. I mean, can I see him doing worse? I think he's going to do better. He didn't do bad. But Usman's length is what I'm absolutely obsessed about, where the guy can just reach out and grab your leg and pull you towards him. He's so long, his durability, and it is difficult to win a decision against him, so you have to finish him. But you talked about how he's indestructible. I feel like now maybe he's standing up more. I don't know. I'd have to really look at it, but he has been he's getting a little rocked in his fights. He did a little versus Colby. He did versus Gilbert Burns.
Yeah.
So, who knows? He's just so much stronger in the clinch. So I think once it goes there, the energy, it just, the power bar starts decreasing faster, and Masvidal, his stuff sometimes involves for him to explode toward you, and that increases the probability of a takedown. The X factor for the fight, I think, is will Usman try to finish George? That could play well, or it could leave opportunities for George. Maybe it could accelerate Usman getting tired somehow. I don't know.
So let me give you alternative thought here, because did Jorge see something in Usman's game that made him want the rematch so badly?
That's all. I'm almost thinking, why does he want this rematch? Does he think he can beat him, or does he want to get another fight instead of fighting someone else, maybe building upon some skills? Yeah, I don't know.
I think this fight is much closer, and I would bet, depending on the money line, the odds, that Masvidal catches him with something and staggers him.
Masvidal has to be careful about throwing too many body kicks, like how he did versus Diaz. It was okay, but early on in their first fight, threw a body kick. Usman said, "That's mine." And now once he has a grip on you, you're at least going down or have to do some kind of chain wrestling, defend the wrestling, where I think it can start to sap you. So I think he'll make little adjustments like that where he'll put it more in his area to have success.
I'm starting to come around to it being much closer than I originally thought.
I think it'll be close, but I think for him, it's hard to finish Usman, and then it's hard to win a decision against him. So I think it'll be closer, but it will still be Usman winning in semi-convincing fashion. But we'll see. All right, question. If Masvidal wins, will there be a trilogy?
Yeah. Unless he gets a first round TKO or KO. He's got to win. Because like Usman won decisively in their last fight. So Jorge would need an early finish, to me, to supersede a trilogy. But Usman has what, like 5-ish defenses? Like he's and he gave him three defenses, so less than I thought, but he gave Masvidal the rematch. Now, Usman did go out and fight somebody else between. So maybe it's like a Stipe Miocic thing where Usman loses, sits around for a year, Masvidal fights somebody else, Usman gets the next shot, whoever the champion is.
I almost think Masvidal is going to be he's going to look for the big money fight. So if Masvidal beats Usman, he's going to fight Nate Diaz for the 170-pound title, because if he beats Usman, Nate Diaz will no longer be fighting Leon Edwards.
So I was going to say even over Nick Diaz.
I'm almost being funny, but joke's on me, because I actually think that might happen. I think Nate Diaz is going to get his ass handed to him versus Leon Edwards. I haven't broke it down too much. I have to look at their fights and really put a little bit of time into it. But off first glance, Leon Edwards, you don't want to fight that guy. And if Leon Edwards beats him, is he going to fight? Is Jorge going to fight him? Even though their like backroom scuffle could be built up. Just throw that fucker all out there in social media. Everyone will be talking shit about it. But I almost feel like that fight's not going to happen.
I'm with you, man. I
probably Conor. He'll probably fight Conor for the title. Now
exactly.
That I think about it.
That's who it is.
Or Poirier.
Just gonna say that. Conor wins, goes up to 170. He's Masvidal's first title defense.
There we go.
Book it. If
we need Usman to win.
Correct.
Now when they talk about the MMA community, this is the kind of fights you need to be fighting for the MMA. Like when you pick a guy, who cares about Ben Askren and Jake Paul? We need Usman to win, because we don't need that happening. Hopefully.
So, and also we need Edwards to destroy Nate Diaz.
It's really hard to destroy him. You could have like a convincing thing. Like I thought it would be Benson Henderson-esque, or you could have like RDA, but it's really hard to put away a Diaz. They are tough and
True.
skilled.
Because if Usman wins, we need Edwards.
I think it would be great, but I'm almost thinking Masvidal is going to look for a bigger money fight, BMF.
Edwards versus Usman. Usman wins.
He sure as hell isn't going to fight. Okay. He'll probably move up and fight Robert Whittaker then, Masvidal. That would be great. I would love that fight. He would never do that, I think. Annihilation. I mean, it'd be close because Masvidal's hard to put away, but he's already straddling that hybrid area of 155, 170, where the speed is an advantage, but also that lack of strength can sometimes be a disadvantage. An example is Kevin Holland.
Yeah. I mean, Whittaker is a former welterweight and probably is quicker than Masvidal.
His hands are so fast. It's ridiculous. That hand speed is, whew. That my man fights with the hands down too. Well, brings him up at the right time, especially his right hand. Okay, so we both have Usman.
Yeah.
I'm picking Usman. I mean, he's getting finishes here, but Jorge is tough to finish, so I have to pick Usman via decision again.
Yeah.
Well, that sucks. We both picked the same guy in the same way.
Has anybody ever finished
Masvidal via submission back in the day?
Way back though, right?
Like, oh yeah. It's like in the 70s.
Fucking Bellator 5.
Damn. Didn't like Bellator 273 just happen or 267?
But they do like 4 to 5 a month.
I think it's on like every Friday.
Yeah,
all right. Weili versus Namajunas. What are your thoughts?
No clue, man. I'll just, my instinct is that Weili is a little more twitchy, a little more athletic, a little more explosive. They have a little more pop in her shots. And even if it's like a close striking battle, I kind of see Weili putting more damage on her the way that kind of like Poirier versus Holloway, like how that fight went. So that's my gut instinct, is based on watching him previously and watching them in videos. But I don't have a real strong lean here.
My initial thought, even when the fight was announced, was Rose is going to surprise some people. And that didn't necessarily mean she's going to win. But Weili likes to stand, and Namajunas is very technically sound, just like the 2 fights versus Joanna. And man, this fight is tough for me. I don't even know if I pick someone, because Weili is a tank.
Yeah.
Do you know who the Tank Man is?
Tank Man?
Yeah. Type in Tank Man and tell me what comes up. Let's see if it comes up. Oh yeah. So what came up?
Chinese protester?
Yes, from the Tiananmen protest.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. This guy, he was a guy who stood in front of the tanks, and he's got like groceries or a bag in his hand, and the tank is trying to go around him or whatnot. And I even think he goes on the tank, and then whatever, he was never heard from again, or who knows what. But a family tree update, is that her? That's Weili, Zhang Weili's dad. Okay. He's what?
Your grandpa.
He's 51 years. It says born 1970.
But he's gone now, right?
He was 19 there. Everyone in China allegedly disappears, right? You can take that however you want to take it. But okay, I mean, she's a tank. There's a tank man. I associate those two. Okay, that's Zhang Weili's dad. I promise.
I can see that.
And that reach, you know, she's 5'4", 63-inch reach. Rose is 5'5", 65, a little bit, but Rose utilizes her length, you know, very well. And tell me if this is a shit X factor, because I don't know if it is. Did the Joanna Weili fight take anything out of Weili, or could it be looked at as a valuable experience for Weili?
See, I can see that. It reminds me of like, I know it's different, but team sports, there was a few years ago where I believe it was the Vikings had this miracle victory. And it was like a really exciting back and forth game. And it was like an epic finish, and they won the game. Next game, they came out flat. And I wonder if there's like a reverberation from something that's like super epic, all timer. Like, is there a bit of a letdown just that's going to occur naturally as just like the ebb and flow or homeostasis of life?
Yeah, it could be even looked at as a deviation from the mean is what has occurred, and this brings back down.
Right. So I do think that it could be a variable.
Because you know, who knows? You got time off, you can recover or whatnot. But, you know, with life, it's hard to tell how many miles you got on you or what. And that can all change with health, nutrition, luck, whatever, genetics. But man, that fight was different. That fight was inspiring. Like, I watched that fight. I thought, oh my God, Joanna's going to pull it off. I think I might even chose Joanna, but Joanna's going to pull off. And then Weili dug deep, both of them. Joanna's had the thing on her head. It was inspiring where I was like, I need to do something. And I think I just got more hammered and passed out, but still I had that feeling of inspiration and maybe even a tear in my eye, because that fight was great.
Yeah.
And I just, man, was there just something taken away that you can't get up that level, or maybe near it as close to that level? Who knows? Maybe even if you have to, if you just come out and smoke her like you did at Andrade, I don't know. But Rose does have a slick BJJ game. And even Andrade rocked her in their second fight and took her down, and Rose threatened with a couple submissions, kicked her right off and got up. So you're thinking, she could catch her in maybe submission, but Weili's a tank, gets on top of you, holds you down, pounds you out with some elbows. But the fight is going to stand up more. Rose is this long technical striker. I start to think, and she's tough as hell. The round 3 versus Andrade put her through some fire, man. And she might even have a great chin. I don't know. She just got crushed with that Andrade slam. Who wouldn't that knockout? It was ridiculous. She almost thought she was paralyzed. It's like I start to look at these technical things and I'm wanting to pick Rose, and I almost think Rose is going to be sneaky, not like Joanna versus Rose the first fight where she came out, surprised her and finished her, but maybe she surprises her with this extra layer of technical ability, or just starts to do things and drags her into her world. And I'm hanging from Trevor Whitman's nuts. But then I start just saying that the tank man, she's a block and she's energy. And like Andrade is like rounded attacks, which can be advantageous. And Weili is just straight ahead and rotational power directed directly at you.
I like it's silly, but I was watching her kick mitts, and I'm like, she's different athletically. Like her pop in her, like you said, her rotation.
And
It's a little bit different.
it's not, yeah, it's not even like a lot of swaying when you can punch, and you can bring that rotation through to your leg and then back out and not back onto your other leg. But she is like straight punches. And I love her second punch. She'll throw that lead right, and then she'll throw that left. It'll be straight, but sometimes it'll come underneath or whatnot. But it's just like rotating on her axis, and it just goes pow, pow, pow.
Yeah.
And it's quick enough, like she has enough countering ability where she can move her head and come back, and then she exchanges, where sometimes you just need to exchange and stuff will happen. And I think I'm going to pick her to win. And even though she does fight upright, I don't like how her upright style is sometimes. And sometimes she'll turn that foot where I think she might be susceptible to Rose's leg kick. And I love Rose's jab. I think she's going to be successful with it. But man, Weili showed me something in that Joanna that if she still stopped, she still keeps coming.
She
Almost
Fireman.
back to Rocky 1 or Rocky 2, because he's like, I've never seen anything like this guy. You beat the shit out of him, and the man kept coming.
Yeah.
He's a zombie. And she has this power and zombie. She's the Chinese zombie, but Korean zombie with more power or something. I don't even know what's going on. But I think she has it. I think Joanna might have been able to fight her off a little bit more, because Joanna's thick. Joanna's thick in the, I'm not talking about the implants. I'm talking about I see how you were looking at me. You're kind of biting your lip a little bit there, like Gina Carano. She's got thick shoulders, and she's able to wrestle off. I don't know if Rose will be able to do that to the extent that Joanna did.
That's why Rose looks a little more stringy.
And that might help her with the striking, but I think when it starts getting inside, I love Weili's trips too, and they're kind of an unorthodox, the unorthodox trip that she has.
Yeah, this fight, it's going to be slower paced than obviously Joanna versus Weili.
Peter Yan has those trips. I absolutely love them. Sorry, I just had to put that in. Go ahead.
No, I said it's going to be slower paced, but I think it's going to be a high level fight, because Rose is a high level striker. And just like the finish she had versus Joanna, there wasn't a lot behind it. It was just a crisp strike that landed cleanly. So she does have that kind of ability to do that to you, like, but doesn't seem like a raw explosive power at the same time.
True.
But just the technique. You know, like you said, Whitman got her crisp, man. Although, does she train with Whitman still, or is it all Barry? She went back.
Now? She's training with him now. She is. I watched her training with him. Man, her in those angles, I wonder what they'll utilize. I feel like that kick might have something. Who knows? Bunch of stuff I don't even understand. He's going to try to implement, but he's got raw, unadulterated power coming at her, who rotates on an axis. That's all I can think of. And it comes at you, and that bitch is tough and can dig deep. But and one thing to watch out for, Weili's translator. If they win, I don't know what's going to be the guy. He loves her. I don't know if she knows it, but that guy is 100% in love with her and would die for her. He knows all of her stats. He cries. He gets more emotional. He loves that girl. It's a good love story. I like it.
Yeah.
It's all about the layers. So who are you picking?
I'm picking Weili.
Look at that. We're both. I have a feeling we're both going to be 3 for 3 here.
Correct.
And then we got I'm going to watch so much shit on the Cold War. It's going to be great. I love this. Bring back the Soviet Union or whatnot. Mao Zedong. Actually, there is a picture in my house across the street from Tiananmen Square. I'm pretty sure I took it from Tiananmen Square. The picture in my house it's going into the Forbidden Palace, and it's a picture of Mao Zedong. And no, I'm not some communist or socialist. I like history, and I was in China, and the picture's cool. And plus stuff like that, stuff I remember from my childhood. So I don't even know who I'm cheering for to
You're
win.
going to skip the pre-fight show and watch Cold War stuff instead to get ready for the event.
Yeah, Rose versus Mao is going to be action-packed. That's all I know. Shevchenko versus Andrade. I was absolutely blown away. I have watched every one of Jessica Andrade's fight, most of them more than once. I mean, we had the nickname for her, Jessica John Hands of Stone Lineker Andrade. Mm-hmm. That's what we used to call her for like 3 years, because she was the same person and all she threw was hooks. And there'd be a great fight for them to go against each other. But I was blown away yesterday by the fact that she's 5'1.5". Did I forget this? Is this new? Is this the Mandela effect? 5'1.5"? I don't remember her being 5'1.5".
I remember her being little or short because I believe she fought at bantamweight for a minute and then went down to strawweight.
Yeah.
And there was talk about how that weight's much better for her. And I remember thinking she's short for this weight class too. So she's going to be short for any weight class. But Valentina doesn't. What is she, like 5'4", 5'5", 5'5"? So you're a little bit of height on her. Is there a reach advantage?
62 versus 66.5. I mean, you're giving Valentina a reach that is always. I can't believe Andrade is 5'1.5", man. I just can't get over this. But she's. I mean, is anyone in the UFC 5'1", 5'1.5"? She's got to be the shortest person in the UFC.
Manny Gambarian, maybe.
Yeah, you're right. That was nice. That I like that. That entertained me. But Andrade is used to being the shorter person. She comes in. She was like doing that the whole second Rose fight. Was this the whole time? I'm just like, yeah, man, did she just practice head movement this whole camp? Get something going, girl. And then she brought it on. She said, oh, yeah, watch this in the second or in the third round. But I mean, I'm picking Valentina.
Yeah, I do wonder because like Valentina uses grappling and takedowns quite a bit. And I wonder if Andrade can neutralize that and turn it into more of a uglier fight on the feet. Because like we saw like in the Rose, the first Rose fight, Rose looked technically superior. Then Andrade slams her on her head and gets the victory. Like she's a bulldog and powerful.
And that's why I picked Andrade in that fight. Is she's going to take it to a level, and she's a bulldog. And Valentina, I think her grappling and how she incorporates it is just on an unbelievable level. I've been saying it, especially after the Juliana Pena fight, where she's starting to get it and she's strong. I don't want to say like GSP, where these people come in and they're just good at it or good at implementing. I think Robert Whittaker is one of those guys deceptively. And the one thing is Andrade does a nice job of transitioning between her takedowns and punching. Mm-hmm. I think if they start grappling, I would not be surprised if Valentina slightly owns her.
Really?
I just think she's that fucking good and that slick. The difference is how Andrade moves from takedowns to punching. So she still always has that chance with those big, thick ass thighs of she just got taken down once or twice, kind of like Jennifer Maya eventually, but then eventually lifts you on your head and tries to kill you. Sometimes that short stature could be an advantage somehow getting underneath, but she does. It's hard with Valentina. Valentina is just so good.
That, like you mentioned GSP, and you know that's one of my comps for her, and she may just have like that special trait
That's what I think she has.
where she just knows how to apply it and do it in a way that is superior to those who even have more experience doing it than her.
I almost think there is some kind of predisposition that is hard to analyze, whether it's the speed at which you go through those movements or decide on them or contract all those muscles at the same time or in a sequence. I believe truly there is some kind of predisposal that's a little bit higher. But obviously it's hard work, it's this and it's that. But Valentina, eventually a champion gets rocked or whatnot. I wouldn't be surprised if there's something spectacular like a flying knee. There was like that kick on Jessica I, and they're like, okay, I knew something was coming. Jessica I is going to get fucking smoked here, but how is it going to happen? You didn't expect it to be that devastating, especially with some of these women's fights. But Andrade brings that, and Andrade starts taking chances, and a flying knee might not even finish her because I think Andrade took a knee from Caitlin Chukagian and then hit her with a body shot right after and finished her. But I don't even know if Valentina has thrown a flying knee, but I could picture her. She is so amazing and so technical that she sets up Andrade to something utterly spectacular.
You book it. Who was the fighter who won one, lost one for a bunch of fights in a row? And we started picking her to win
Ronda Marcos.
Thank you. Okay. So going back to the Holly Holm fight for Shevchenko, Holly Holm fight, decision. Juliana Pena, she finishes her. Next fight, Nunez, decision. Then she fights, I forget the girl's name, but her first flyweight fight finishes her. Decision versus Joanna, finishes I. Decision Carmouche, finishes Chukagian. Decision Maya. The pattern here is she's going to finish Andrade.
I love this kind of this is the kind of analysis people come to this podcast for.
I'm going Shevchenko inside the distance for 2 years.
Oh, this is great.
And so look at this. Andrade's last 3 losses, okay, since coming down from bantamweight. Go back to the most recent one, Rose. Before that, Weili. Before that, Joanna. What do those 3 have in common? They're all technically superior strikers. Oh. What is Shevchenko? But also well-rounded too with the takedowns.
I was going to say something different, but also kind of supports it, is that Andrade, before she came up to straw weight or went down to straw weight, she, you know what? This was 135 though. So not 125. Pennington submitted. Renault submitted. Carmouche punches and elbows.
Yeah, and so Pennington, who's a bigger fighter, Andrade landed more takedowns on her than Pennington got on her. But Raquel got the finish. So I wouldn't it be like Andrade, like, get an early takedown. Throw Shevchenko off of her game by changing levels and putting her on her back for a few.
I wonder how hard Andrade is going to come out. And, you know, Valentina is a counter striker, I should say. How effective she's going to be with stopping Andrade's initial onslaught. And then Andrade is either going to have to start to risk it more. But once you risk more, you start risking that, getting finished, put yourself in more vulnerable positions or whatnot. It's good. Andrade just had a fight before, so she's had a little bit of time to maybe fill into 125 more.
Yeah.
So get those thighs a little bit thicker.
They looked powerful.
They're thick.
In her last fight.
I wonder if she should even one thing I'm wondering, and maybe it'll happen in this event, when are calf kicks going to start becoming prevalent with women?
Yeah, good question.
Like where it actually starts ending fights. Maybe it has on some undercard events. Maybe it has with some other ones that I can't recall off the top of my head, but it's not to the amount happens with men. Maybe it's because it's only during with the higher weights. I don't know. I know Pedro Munoz loves those, but I'm picking Shevchenko. Are you picking Shevchenko?
Yeah.
God, this show sucks. We
There's
each pick the same person.
No, back to I'm on GSP's fight history here because I love the GSP Shevchenko comp. Besides the Matt Serra knockout, the person who fought GSP the closest, Johnny Hendricks. Hendricks is the only opponent to land 2 takedowns on GSP during his run to power, or
shout out to the big rig.
And before the Matt Serra loss, Matt Hughes beat GSP. What'd Hughes do? Land 2 takedowns.
There we go. Got to land those takedowns on.
I think Andrade should get a takedown.
If Weili and Shevchenko win, will there be a push for them to fight?
I mean, that seems like an easy one to do because it's at that lower weight class. I'm looking at women's flyweight.
Don't.
Yeah. So really, and Weili too, man. If she beats Rose, where is Tatiana Suarez? Just retired from the rankings?
Whoa, she's not even in the rankings? All right, let me X out Tank Man here and put in Tatiana Suarez. Got the first 2 letters with it. Wow, I guess her last fight was almost, and I'm okay with people being taken out of the rankings after a year and a half. It's coming up on 2 years in June. Damn.
Has it been that long?
Wow, yes.
I don't know, man. How do you say the other Chinese girl's name?
Yan
Shonen?
I don't know. Related, married to Ryo Chonin?
I still can't say Joanna's last name, and she's been around so long.
Well, but you're saying Joanna. That's next level. You've evolved from Joanna. I need to stick with Joanna.
But I'll say Joanna here and there too. Like I call Jorge George sometimes.
Yeah, I'll mix it up. I'll always say this to my girlfriend is that whatever age I met you at or got to best know you at, you stay that age forever in my mind.
I like this idea.
like her brother, to me, he's 22 or 21. I have no idea. He might even be 35 right now. I don't know. But whatever age, that's what you stick to. I don't have time for that kind of calculation.
And he brings the pizza too.
He's the man.
So that'd be interesting, man. Weili versus Yan. First ever Chinese, first Chinese champion that occurred in the past year or so. But you got an all Chinese main event. That probably tickles Dana's wallet. He's like, I can promote this in China.
They're going to build a stadium with 1 billion people.
I can 100% see that happening.
So she'll be the next Khabib.
Yeah, that to me, I can see that happening. Shevchenko is she's Amanda Nunes. She just, tomato cans left and right, man. Loves tomato sauce.
That's because they cleared out the division. Not because they.
Yeah, Cynthia Cavillo, maybe. That's Shevchenko's she's a possibility, right?
Yeah, she's coming off a loss, I think, to Chukagian.
I thought she was too. Yeah, you're right. Chukagian.
Joanna's gotta get a. She's saying like, "Oh, I'll fight the winner of who next." Well, you're not gonna probably fight Rose, and you're gonna be coming off a loss. It's a split decision to Weili. I don't know. I mean, that's what happened to Usman, and he fought worse. So Joanna could get the next fight.
True,
I mean,
man.
the fight was inspiring, but yeah, the champion fights, wins a fight, and fights you again, who you haven't even fought again. She has a stronger case than Usman does with, or I'm sorry, than Masvidal has with Usman.
True. She is 2-4 in her last 6, but her 4 losses are versus beasts.
Yeah,
You
and
can't
then
hold that
that
against
Valentina one was short notice. She was already checked out because she was getting the breast implants, so she was already looking ahead. That's like looking ahead to retirement.
Mackenzie Dern's a win away from a title shot potentially.
So watch out for her. She will be challenging for the title. Marina Rodriguez is coming off a fantastic win over Amanda Hebus. Look at how fast that can turn. Remember, Hebus kind of handled Dern, and then look at now. Boom.
I'm shocked Carla Esparza, after all these years, is fighting her back to a title shot.
My mind is was the first ever champ.
I know. Yeah.
Shout out to her. Fighting her ass off.
She's like a modern day Robert Whittaker. Dude lost the belt 6 years ago. She's potentially 1 win from a title shot. Her last win is versus Marina Rodriguez.
Tatiana needs to handle those injuries, hopefully.
Right, I predicted Esparza versus Dern.
Okay. So then you think Weili versus Joanna? Weili versus, if Weili wins, Weili versus Joanna, Weili versus Shevchenko, or Weili versus Jan?
When was Weili versus Joanna? Let me just double check this. I mean, that was a fucking year ago. So maybe that fight did take it out of her a little bit. So I think Joanna fights Jan.
Okay, then who will Weili fight? She'll wait up the winner?
You're going to wait.
The winner of Joanna and Jan? Okay.
I think Joanna Jan or winner of Esparza Dern could get the next shot depending on how the fight goes. If Dern comes in there again, gets another sub 3 minute first round submission, people are going to be, and plus, well, never mind. But yeah, people will be wanting that fight.
Nice. All right. Oh, so I'm looking at the odds. What would you guess Usman Masvidal odds are?
Minus 380.
Minus 420 and plus 335 Jorge. And they could be different depending on where they're at. Rose and Weili.
Weili minus 180.
Weili minus 225. Rose plus 185. Shevchenko and Andrade.
Shevchenko minus 550.
Shevchenko minus 430. Andrade plus 345. So
I'm going to count that as 3 victories, man. Pretty close there.
Shevchenko and Usman are almost the same. Minus 430, minus 420. Who has a better chance of winning, Masvidal or Andrade?
The thing is, like, with both Shevchenko and Usman in their current division for Shevchenko, Usman has looked more vulnerable. Colby, put it, he did some stuff, man, versus Usman. I thought he was gonna wear some down to get the win there. I really did. And Burns in recent memory landed some shots. So, and there's something to the rematch. Like Masvidal wants this fucking fight so badly.
Oh, you're almost getting the feeling like it's Connor Diaz, huh? Oh, I can see that look in your eye. I think you
Here's the
even said
thing,
it with
though,
an
like,
Irish accent.
the person who won the first fight, they're nothing alike.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point.
That's my biggest thing there. But can Masvidal land that clean shot and get a T? Because the way that Stipe beat DC in their second fight, Stipe's first win, he didn't knock him out cold. He just hurt him and then landed on shots that weren't defended and got the finish.
For me, I think it could be punches, but I think with anything, you can hurt someone with a head kick. Yeah. Masvidal does reach down, or I'm sorry, Usman does reach down. God, I can never say their names who I want to say. I'm obviously having a stroke again. Usman does like reaching down. Maybe he catches a head kick. I think Masvidal has a better chance than Andrade.
All we do is agree. This show does two things better than all other shows.
Sucks and agrees.
I say rankings and agrees.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. No show ranks how we rank.
Will the fans who are there be more rowdy than usual? It's the first UFC event. Are they going to get more drunk?
Is it in Florida?
Are there going to be fights? And like, what is going to happen there?
Is it in Florida? Is it back to Jacksonville?
Jacksonville. I think this is the first one with fans.
I hope COVID knocked the Ric Flair out of the fans.
The woo?
Yeah.
Maybe COVID did something to the lungs where it's harder for that to get that woo out.
Because yeah, that woo is a real downer on the viewing experience.
You love not having fans.
Correct.
It almost reminds me of the old Pride.
Fans don't really add anything to the viewing experience. Maybe for the fighters there, like the noise, it adds to them. But for me, I don't care if they're there or not.
And do not add fake fan noise. That irritates me. With the NFL, I don't like that.
The NFL, it's like, it's always the same tone, it sounds like. It's, like the fans aren't always the same volume. Anyway.
I agree. I agree with you. What about the other fights? Uriah Hall, Chris Weidman. I'm so hung up on these 3 title fights that.
Yeah. I mean, Cowboy Oliveira's back versus Randy Brown. That should be fun. There's a lot of new blood on this card. Jimmy won a few in a row.
Randy Brown, we're both big on him. Our Jamaican sensation. And Cowboy Oliveira, he goes for it. So
Jimmy the Brute, I like his nickname, but Brute Champagne with mimosas is not good. You gotta go Prosecco.
Wait, what are you talking about here?
Jimmy the Brute.
Oh. That's an interesting fight. I'm big on Jimmy Crute. He's got the ability. He's young. This could be a possible coming out party, maybe, if he's able to. I think he'll win. We'll see how impressively, but he is fighting a tough veteran who, God, Anthony Smith, seriously. He fights in the octagon. He fights at home. He fights all the time. He's got 50 total fights. He's coming off a win. I mean, he does lose to tough guys. So
Jamie Crute, 6 straight fights, no decision.
he brings the heat, and he gets you down and he can grapple you. Man, I'm intrigued by this fight. I don't know if I want Anthony. I like him. He fights well. I don't want him to win because I think we've seen him around. It'd be nice to have some new blood.
100%.
So I'll be cheering for the brute.
Jamie Crute is young. I didn't realize he's 25 years old.
Yeah, he's like our new Sage Northcutt. Sage of the light heavyweight division, huh?
Right. He's got 7 years at light heavyweight left in his career. Another 10 at heavyweight. Get used to Jamie Crute, man. Gonna be around a while.
And Uriah Hall. We might be having a Uriah Hall Paula Costa rematch, huh?
This could be a coming out party for Hall, man. I can't watch those two bodies again in the same octagon. It's too much.
That's just a thing of beauty. You can only have one beautiful body in there. You can't have two. It's too much. I
agree.
It's like overkill. Like, okay, take it easy. Let's put some fat on you guys. Or some oil, which contains fat. Olive oil. I mean, what? Throw a little olive oil on the fighters, you know? Isn't that what GSP did? Or was that baby oil?
Yeah, what did he do? Was that verse? Who was that verse?
Every guy said it. Matt Hughes, BJ Penn, Sean Sirk, something like that. Whatever. I don't even know. It was a different time. And who knows if that's even true. No, he activated it when he spit the water up and then it came down. It was actually that bottle had oil in it. It wasn't even water.
The refs and Dana were on the take there because they knew GSP's stardom.
Look, we're not even going to discuss was that fight fixed. Ben Askren gets absolutely crushed with the right hand. Well, like you can't say he didn't get crushed as Jake Paul messed with his distance where he was throwing that right hand, not with a lot of forward distance. And there's not much of the fight that happened. So it's kind of hard to tell, but he came in hard with a lot of force and crushed him with it. Ben still got up, but that ref was 85 years old and didn't like how Ben was but maybe Ben normally walked like that because he did walk like he has a hip replacement. Maybe that was his hip thing acting up.
Dude, I think you nailed it, man. See, the people who are strong and it's a fix probably never competed in a combat sport because my man got cracked.
I'm going to tell you this. The people who said it's fixed, a lot of them come from boxing and watching boxing. Every single fight in boxing that had anything that ever happened to it, all you hear about is fixed. I've heard it my entire fucking life. It's not new. It's old. Thing is, old boxing matches were fixed sometimes. Newer one, whatever you want to tell them. He got a guy. I think Ben didn't train as much. Now you're telling me that Freddie Roach stuff. It's making me think more. Some of the way he was acting, he got caught off guard. He got up. Do I think the ref could have let it go longer? Yeah, but he didn't. The ref seemed like he should have been called. So he was having a hard time doing anything. I mean, how late is it for that guy? His bedtime has to be 8:00. He's 80 years old.
Yes, agree. So glad this came up because let's say it was an early stoppage. In a way, I'd say it's not because that ref did Ben Askren a huge favor because the egg on his face that's already there or whatever embarrassment exists would have been much worse if he goes out like Nate Robinson did. And it wasn't going to get better for Ben.
Well, I was going to say from a health perspective,
he did benefit.
It could have been
for health and for this embarrassment
because he could have caught another shot where he was more out cold and then boom, back of the head, hits off the canvas hard.
Yeah. So he should be thankful. He got his payday in and out of there in 2 minutes. It is what it is.
Plus the quicker we got that over with, The fight didn't need to play out longer. It's
No.
it's a fun night. It's like a one night stand. All right, it's fun. That's it. Let's call it. Like someone's got to go to work tomorrow or try to get over this hangover.
You
Do
don't need to
something.
text the next day. No one's going to call anybody. We're not going to hang out.
No, so
Wasn't
when they
it was
no,
what it
they're
is.
wanting a fucking. I'm gonna bring a friend next time, Tyron Woodley, and this and that. No, no, no. I don't.
No.
Tyron Woodley's locker room interaction is the most non-event of the weekend that is talked about way too much. Oh, you're talking about it now? Yeah, way at the end of the show. But I'm definitely not. We're not gonna post about it.
No.
That was so them talking trash. Who cares? I don't care if he boxes J. Cole or whoever the fuck that was, or this guy or that guy. God.
Yeah, agree.
I already don't want to see him. I mean, I don't want to be rude. I don't really care to see him fight much now. In
Woodley
his
or
sport.
Paul? Or
Woodley. Woodley, I want to see Paul do his stupid stuff. It's funny to me.
Yeah, I know.
That's my
I
stupid.
agree,
that's my stupid side. I don't want that stupid shit in the octagon, even though I was somewhat okay with it, I guess, with CM Punk. Maybe Dana White started all this with CM Punk.
Jake Paul's like fast food. Probably don't want to eat it every day. May affect you negatively. You're whatever. You need to get some fiber in there. But having it here and there is a little treat on top of your other meals. Perfectly good.
For me, I think you're getting there with the analogy, but I eat fast food more than I think Jake Paul should be in my life. I'm going to say Jake Paul for me is like Coke.
Okay.
Like cocaine. I'll dabble in it once in a while, but hey man, you got to keep this away. It's not good for anyone. And
I actually do agree because I eat fast food all the fucking time. Especially now with all these new things down here to try out.
Oh, yeah, we don't need this. We don't know. He is not fast food.
That's true. That's true.
UFC is your fast food.
I guess you're right. Like, yeah, I guess it is. Yeah. There you go.
Are any Tristan Connolly on the prelims? Tristan Connolly is the guy who beat Michelle Pahea and was able to outlast him. So watch out for that guy. I mean, he came in, it was like short notice. He was a lot smaller. And Michelle Pahea, he's gigantic in his body. When someone has a nice body, you have to change how you say body. You really have to either put a hard B on that or you have to lengthen that O.
I dig it, man.
Michelle Pahea has a body on him.
That guy's a character, man.
He's ridiculous. Well,
I actually have one thing here before we wrap up.
Good. Let's hear it.
Demetrius Johnson won his next 3 fights after Cejudo beat him.
Wow. What a coincidence. Amazing.
I'm like, I looked at past champs. I'm looking through. I'm like, let me just go Demetrius first. Maybe I can just squash this theory right now on the first try. And then there you go.
Or you thought I was looking it up. But the argument against that could be Whittaker did his in the UFC. Not saying there aren't good fighters here. There's good fighters everywhere, but just the consistent quality of the UFC, I think, is evident.
100%.
I'm not some UFC dick rider. I love the hell out of Pride and would argue for it and everything. So yeah, Demetrius, huh?
There you go, man. Like, I'm not surprised. Cue up the Nate Diaz GIF.
It's not my appreciation segment for Demetrius. It's yours. So
I'm stating facts. And if appreciation derives from me stating facts, then that's the way it's meant to be.
So it's up to the beholder what he wants to do with these facts, if he wants to appreciate them or not.
100%, man.
That's all I got, man.
Let's get the fuck out of here.